Hi, everybody. My name is Krehbiel. I used to do this daily podcast called Something I Learned Yesterday. Haven't done it for a long time, but I published a new article today that I think is kind of important, so I want to break my custom and do it again. The title is called It's Time to Start Planning for AI Job Losses. I'm very frustrated. If you weren't already aware of the AI powered calamity that's in our near future, Matt Schumer recently gave it a good intro in Something Big is Coming. We've been warned, not just by Matt, but by lots of people. But my sense is that people aren't taking the warning very seriously. AI is already causing lots of layoffs. And reports, McKinsey and other people, are estimating anywhere from 10 to 50% of jobs could be automated in the next decade. Personally, I think that's on the low end. Then again, I'm not McKinsey. Intelligent people keep telling me that AI will work out just fine. It's just like past technological innovations. I've written about that other places. But all these people can give me is sort of this vague, hand-waving, happy-clappy optimism. There's meat in the negativity, and there's low-fat, whipped, sugar-free foam in the positive spin. People say AI will create so much prosperity that everyone will be wealthy. Well, that's a lovely sentiment, but have you thought through how it's going to work? Now, you might be able to argue that if AI drastically lowers the cost of goods, then people's money will go further, and which does indeed create wealth. That's sort of the definition of wealth. Unfortunately, that assumes everything else remains the same. For example, that people still have a source of income. The truck driver who's been displaced by a self-driving truck isn't impressed that the cost of goods is falling. He doesn't have any money to pay for those goods even at the reduced price. The AI tsunami is on its way, and it's going to displace a lot more than truck drivers. Customer service reps, legal assistants, junior programmers, accounting, lots of workers are looking into the abyss. We don't have time for the kind of sloppy, naive thinking that has prevailed. If you're going to sell a story, like Elon Musk has been, that AI won't destroy civilization, it'll be happy and good for everybody, please have the courtesy to explain the mechanism that makes it plausible. And please tell us that somebody is actually working on putting that in place. For example, if you believe AI will raise everyone's standard of living, then you must know how people with no jobs are going to buy things. Maybe you think universal basic income will do that. So if you believe that increased AI wealth will be taxed and redistributed, you must have some idea how the government's going to identify what AI wealth is and how they're going to tax it and how they're going to redistribute it. You don't know that. Nobody does. You must also know how AI can simultaneously be creating all this wealth and paying all these taxes. Nobody seems to address that question. If you believe AI will create more jobs than it destroys, you must have some idea what those jobs might be and how they compare in scale to the jobs that are lost. Nobody's talking about that. If you believe humans will always outperform machines in the important things, then you must have some idea of how the important things will outnumber the unimportant things that AI can do. Nobody's talking about that either. If you believe out of work humans will be freed to be creative and study philosophy, you must be talking about some other variety of humans because a large portion of the population will watch TikTok videos, get fat, and abuse drugs. The point is simple. Optimism is not an argument. Hope is not a strategy or a mechanism. Now, listen, I'm a Star Trek fan. I would love to live in a world where you get your food from a food replicator and you work or cook only if you want to. If that's what AI is going to create, I'm in. The question is, how do we get from here to there, practically speaking, without some huge human calamity along the way? If you want to have a rational hope for a future where AI helps humans to prosper, you need to think past the naive talking points and focus on practical mechanisms. Or were you hoping the politicians would do that? I mean, seriously, were you hoping the politicians would do that? We can't pin our hopes on politicians, on tech titans, on geniuses, on experts. That's not how progress actually works. There's this thing called Gall's law. It's an interesting law. It says a complicated system can't be designed from scratch. It has to be designed from simpler systems that have proven themselves to work in the real world. So all this happy talk about this AI future is not based on things that actually work, like universal basic income. That hasn't worked. So we're just inventing nonsense. To get through this transition that's flying toward us at warp speed, thousands of theories have to be tested in the real world so that the few of them that work can rise to the top. Think back to the pandemic. The happy talk theory was that with all that time on their hands, people would learn an instrument, study philosophy, create works of art. Yeah, 5 people did that. The rest were drinking gin on Zoom calls because it looks like water. AI is here, and it's only going to get better and more capable. It's already very capable, but it's going to get better. We can hide our heads under a blanket and wait for the end. We can lead some sort of hopeless jihad against the thinking machines, or we can try to find a way to make this work. Now, I have grandchildren. I want them to live in a better world. So there's only one real choice for me. As much as I'd love to lead that jihad, it's just not practical. I've been torturing myself with this question for months. How can humans prosper in an age of AI? What methods, mechanisms, mental models might work? How do we get our head around this? How can we start testing these ideas right now? Now, I'm a creative guy and I'll do my part to try to come up with ideas, but I can't come up with all the ideas we'll need. The crisis we're facing requires 1 million creative people who, one, realize the horrible danger we're in, and 2, are willing to look it in the eye and stare it down. We need to start imagining how humanity is going to work with AI, practically, in a way that includes things like paying bills and buying groceries. Now, here are some seed ideas to get the conversation started. What if CEOs started to think this way? Make a commitment that all AI productivity gains are reinvested into new initiative. That would fulfill the promise that AI creates more jobs than it destroys, or at least it would help. How about this? Give every employee 1 hour a day to come up with new ideas. Now, by the way, you'll need a process to sort those kind of new ideas. I'm very good at that. Let me know. Allow or encourage employees to work side jobs to diversify their personal revenue streams. Experiment with shorter hours instead of fewer people while maintaining salaries. Now, that's a challenge. If AI allows the same work to be done by fewer people, use the surplus time for training or mentoring. How about this? Change the corporate culture so that CEOs take lower compensation to keep humans on the payroll. Now, but who am I kidding? Corporations are driven by greed. We can't rely on CEOs any more than we can rely on the tech bros or on Congress. We have to start thinking about changes on the personal level, you and I. Here are some ideas. Do business with the few companies that implement human-centric policies. Live well below your means so that you can share with others who are victims of this tsunami. Insist on high-quality products with a human touch. Don't settle for AI slop. I'm not saying all AI stuff is slop. That's not true. Don't settle for the low-effort, crappy stuff. If losing a job would lead to a loss of meaning in your life, and that's going to be true for a lot of people, then you need to start looking for other ways to find fulfillment. Invest in your community. You know, if we're all going to be out of work and we're going to be hoeing turnips next to our neighbor, a couple of years from now, you might as well get to know him now. Diversify your income streams. If you don't have a side gig, start one. When you think of a good idea or product or service, use AI to make it work. I'm not talking about, getting rid of AI, abandoning AI, pretending AI doesn't exist. Use the thing. Now, none of this requires permission. None of it depends on a high-tech breakthrough or a new government program. It doesn't depend on Congress or the president or courts or anything else. These are ideas ordinary people and companies can try. And I haven't even mentioned, good grief, education, art, culture. There are so many other areas that will be touched by this. So be clear-eyed about the challenge. Most ideas will fail. That's just the nature of ideas. But some will work better than expected for reasons nobody could have predicted. Cast your bread on the waters, try things, and encourage others to do the same. The need of the moment is both stark and clear. A realistic assessment of the storm that's coming, and a storm is coming. Resolve to face that storm, creativity to beat it, and sacrifice to get through the hard times. So, are you in or are you hiding under your blanket?